Chosen ones, smile. Karma just rang the doorbell at 6 a.m. with a badge and a warrant. Look who's sitting pretty with their morning coffee while someone else is getting their rights read. The person who had you questioning your sanity just got questioned by professionals who don't fall for manipulation tactics. Your backstabbing ex thought they buried their secrets deep enough, but federal investigators just brought excavation equipment. While you were healing in silence, the universe was building a case file thicker than their lies. The same hands that tried to destroy you are now in handcuffs, and the poetry of it all tastes better than this morning's breakfast. The knock came early, before their usual armor of lies could be assembled. 3 unmarked cars, 5 federal agents, and 1 warrant that spelled out exactly what you always knew but could never prove. Remember when they called you paranoid for thinking something was off? Remember when they gaslit you so hard you started keeping screenshots just to prove to yourself that conversations actually happened? Those screenshots you deleted to move on are nothing compared to the evidence bags being carried out of their place right now. This morning's visit wasn't random. It was the culmination of a countdown that started the day they decided to play games with someone heaven-marked for greatness. Every move they made after betraying you was monitored by forces they couldn't see. Every new victim they found was another page in an investigation file. Every lie they told to cover other lies created a paper trail that led straight to this moment. The universe doesn't just watch, it documents, investigates, and when the time is perfect, it executes justice with precision that would make your head spin. You were drinking coffee, planning your day, completely unaware that across town their world was imploding. The beautiful part about divine timing is that it waits until you're so healed that their downfall doesn't even interrupt your morning routine. 6 months ago, this news would have sent you into a spiral of emotions. Today, it's just confirmation of what your intuition told you all along. You're not even surprised, are you? Part of you knew this day would come. You felt it building in the spiritual atmosphere like pressure before a storm. But here's where the story gets interesting. This federal investigation didn't start with them. It started with someone else entirely, someone they thought was a perfect mark, just like you once were. The universe has a sense of humor about these things. The very patterns they used to destroy you became the template investigators used to track them. Their signature moves, the ones they perfected on your heart, became their digital fingerprint in a federal database. They literally played themselves by being so consistent in their destruction. You see, while you were in therapy learning about narcissistic abuse patterns, federal investigators were learning about financial fraud patterns. While you were discovering terms like love bombing and future faking, they were discovering terms like wire fraud and racketeering. The emotional crimes they committed against you had financial cousins they were committing against others. The manipulation that broke your heart was breaking federal laws. The gaslighting that damaged your mental health was actually part of a larger scheme that caught the attention of people who prosecute for a living. The morning they got visited, you had just finished journaling about gratitude. The exact moment they were reading their rights, you were writing about how far you've come. The synchronicity isn't coincidental. It's orchestrated by something bigger than human understanding. The universe waited until you were in complete alignment with your highest self before delivering this news. It waited until you genuinely didn't need their downfall for your uprising. It waited until your happiness was independent of their suffering. There's something you don't know yet, something the investigation is about to reveal that will change everything you thought you understood about your past relationship. Those weekend trips they took for work. Federal surveillance has photos from 7 different states. Those friends they introduced you to, who seemed off, half of them are now cooperating witnesses. That family emergency that took them away for 2 weeks. There was no emergency, but there was a meeting with people who are now on federal watch lists. Every instinct you had about something being deeply wrong was actually your spirit detecting criminal energy you couldn't consciously identify. Let's rewind to 6 months after you left, when they thought they'd won. They had successfully painted you as the unstable one to anyone who would listen. Their version of events was so convincing that even you started wondering if maybe you were remembering things wrong. They moved on quickly, flaunting new relationships, new successes, new everything. Meanwhile, you were still trying to figure out which way was up. They looked like they were thriving while you were barely surviving. If someone had taken a snapshot of both your lives at that moment, any observer would have said they were the winner. But the universe was playing a longer game. While they were posting their fake happiness, investigators were noticing discrepancies. While they were love-bombing new victims, their previous victims were finding each other and comparing notes. While they were creating new false narratives, old evidence was being subpoenaed. The higher they climbed on their tower of lies, the more visible they became to federal radar. Success built on deception is like building a mansion on quicksand. It might look impressive for a moment, but the foundation is already failing. The investigation file that sits on a federal desk right now has your name in it, but not as a suspect. You're listed as Victims 3 in a pattern that spans 5 years and 17 lives. But here's what's going to shock you. You weren't even the third victim. You were the third victim to survive intact enough to leave a trail. The first two, one is in witness protection now. The other disappeared completely, and investigators are still trying to locate them. You think you knew how dangerous this person was, but you only saw the surface of an iceberg that goes deeper than federal agents initially suspected. You started to heal around month 8, remember? Something shifted. You stopped checking their social media. You stopped caring about their narrative. You stopped needing validation from people who chose to believe them. You started focusing on yourself with an intensity that surprised everyone, including you. That was the exact moment the universal scales began to tip. Your indifference to their existence created a vacuum that justice rushed to fill. The less you cared about revenge, the more the universe cared about balance. The shift in your energy didn't go unnoticed in the spiritual realm. The moment you truly let go, truly released the need for vindication, was the moment cosmic forces mobilized. It's like the universe was waiting for you to step back so it could step forward. Your healing became the green light for Heaven's Justice Department. Your peace became the permission slip for karmic prosecution. The day you stopped needing them to pay was the day their payment came due with interest that compounds in federal charges. The investigation that culminated in this morning's visit actually began with a complaint from someone you don't even know. Another victim in another city who experienced the exact same pattern of destruction. They went to authorities with evidence you wish you'd had, documents you didn't think to keep, recordings you didn't think to make, proof of things you only suspected, and when investigators started pulling that thread, your name came up. Not as a suspect, but as a pattern. Not as a participant, but as precedent. You were victim number 3 in a file that eventually documented 17 different cases across 5 years. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming, not even you. The financial crimes they're being investigated for were happening while you were together. Those mysterious phone calls they took in private, federal interest. Those sudden windfalls of money they could never quite explain, federal interest. Those business trips that didn't quite add up, federal surveillance. You were living with someone who was actively committing federal crimes, and they were so good at compartmentalizing that you only felt the emotional crimes they were committing against you. The gaslighting was partially to keep you from noticing the actual crimes happening under your nose. Remember that night you found those documents that didn't make sense? The ones they said were nothing important and made you feel crazy for questioning. Those documents are now evidence. Remember when you asked about certain transactions and they exploded in anger, turning it into a fight about you not trusting them? Those transactions are now under federal scrutiny. Every time your intuition pinged that something was wrong, you were right. But something was bigger than just infidelity or emotional abuse. You were sensing criminal activity that your conscious mind couldn't quite identify. Let me tell you about the moment investigators realized they were dealing with something bigger than standard fraud. It was when they discovered the connection between emotional manipulation and financial exploitation. Your ex wasn't just randomly hurting people. They were strategically targeting individuals with specific profiles, empathetic people with resources, caring people with credit, loving people with liquidity. The emotional abuse was the method. Financial exploitation was the motive. You thought you were in a toxic relationship. You were actually in a criminal enterprise designed to look like love. The other victims have been contacted by investigators. Each one thought they were alone in their experience until the FBI connected the dots. There's a group chat now, not one you're part of, but one that exists. 17 people who thought they were crazy, all discovering they experienced the exact same playbook, the same love-bombing timeline, the same devaluation tactics, the same financial inconsistencies, the same mysterious disappearances, the same explosive anger when questioned, the same smear campaigns when they left. 17 people whose individual stories became evidence of a pattern that spelled out criminal enterprise in federal language. But wait, there's more that's about to surface. The investigation has uncovered connections to 3 other individuals who were running similar operations. Your ex wasn't a lone wolf. They were part of a network, a sophisticated group that shared tactics, resources, and even victims. They would pass targets between them, each one playing a different role in an elaborate con that spanned years. The person you thought was their crazy ex who kept showing up. They were trying to warn you. The friend who seemed suspiciously invested in your relationship, they were in on it. The therapist they recommended who made you feel worse, part of the network. You're probably wondering if you'll be called to testify. The beautiful thing about documented patterns is that they speak for themselves. Your testimony lives in the collective evidence of everyone who came after you. Your experience is validated without you having to relive it on a witness stand. Your truth is confirmed without you having to face them across a courtroom. The universe structured this so perfectly that you can remain completely removed while still being completely vindicated. Your absence from the proceedings is actually more powerful than your presence could ever be. The federal prosecutor assigned to this case has a reputation for being ruthless with financial predators. They've successfully prosecuted 18 similar cases with a 100% conviction rate. They don't plea bargain. They don't reduce charges. They go for maximum sentences with surgical precision. The same tenacity your ex showed in destroying you is about to be matched by someone who destroys people like them for a living. The universe doesn't just send karma. Sometimes it sends karma with a law degree and federal backing. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find their validation in this divine justice. Because right now, someone is lying awake wondering if they're crazy for suspecting what you've just been proven right about. Someone needs to hear that federal agents don't show up for misunderstandings. They don't raid homes over miscommunications. They don't build cases on hunches. When those unmarked cars pull up, it's because evidence has met the threshold. When those warrants get signed, it's because probable cause has been established. When those rights get read, it's because crimes have been documented. The investigation revealed layers that even the universe saved as a surprise for this moment. They weren't just manipulating romantic partners. They were manipulating business partners, family members, anyone with resources they could access. The romantic relationships were just one tentacle of a much larger creature. You thought you were dealing with a toxic partner. You were actually dealing with someone who weaponized intimacy for profit. The emotional devastation was just collateral damage in their financial campaigns. You were both victim and alibi, target and cover story. Here's something that will vindicate every suspicious thought you ever had. The investigation found 7 different identities they were using, 7 different social security numbers, 7 different backstories. The person you knew was just one character in their repertoire. While they were with you, they were simultaneously running the same con on 2 other people in different states. Those business trips, they were visiting their other lives. Those phone calls they took in private, they were managing their other victims. Those times they disappeared and couldn't explain where they'd been, They were being someone else entirely. The technology forensics team found something that changes everything. Your ex had specialized software on their devices designed to manipulate evidence. They could create fake text conversations, alter timestamps, modify photos. Every time they showed you proof of something, every time they made you doubt your own memory with evidence that seemed conclusive, they were using tools designed for digital deception. You weren't losing your mind. You were being gaslit by someone using actual technology designed to make people question reality. The same software is now evidence in their federal case. Here's where the story takes another turn. 3 weeks before the federal visit, they tried to contact you. Remember that random text from an unknown number that felt familiar? That was them, using a burner phone, testing to see if you'd respond. They sensed something coming and thought maybe they could establish some kind of communication, some kind of leverage, some kind of insurance policy. But you didn't respond. Your intuition told you to delete and block, and you listened. That non-response saved you from being potentially implicated as someone with knowledge of their crimes. Your healing made you untouchable in ways you didn't even realize. The federal visit this morning wasn't just about one person getting arrested. It was about 17 victims getting validated. It was about patterns being recognized as criminal rather than just cruel. It was about the universe establishing that there are consequences for destroying chosen ones. But most importantly, it was about you being so far removed from the situation that you only heard about it through the cosmic grapevine, not through a subpoena. You're not a witness, you're not a victim in their current case. You're a survivor whose story helped establish pattern evidence without your active participation. They're sitting in a federal holding facility right now, trying to figure out which of their victims talked. They're going through every relationship, every interaction, every possibility. But here's the beautiful irony. None of their victims had to talk for this to happen. The evidence talked. The patterns talked, the digital footprints talked, the financial records talked. Everything they thought they had hidden was actually being archived in systems they didn't even know existed. Every crime they committed thinking they were smart was actually being catalogued by people smarter than them. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening in their world right now. Their assets have been frozen. Every bank account, every credit card, every investment, the luxury car they drove, impounded, the designer clothes they wore, being catalogued as evidence of lifestyle beyond reported means, the apartment they lived in, currently being searched with a thoroughness that would find a needle in a cosmic haystack. Every device they owned is being forensically examined. Every deleted file is being recovered. Every encrypted message is being decoded. Their entire digital existence is being reconstructed and examined under federal microscopes. The lawyer they called is someone they can't actually afford. The retainer alone is more than they claimed to have during your relationship when you were paying for everything. Funny how money appears when federal charges are involved. Funny how resources materialize when freedom is threatened. All those times they claimed to be broke while you covered their expenses, they had hidden accounts. All those times they said they couldn't contribute while you depleted your savings, they were building their reserves. The federal investigation didn't just reveal crimes, it revealed the depth of deception you survived. But here's what's really going to bake your noodles, the hidden accounts they had. One of them has your name associated with it, not as an owner, but as an authorized user they added without your knowledge. They were setting you up as a potential fall person if things went south. The universe removed you from their life before they could execute that part of their plan. Your heartbreak wasn't just protection from emotional damage, it was protection from potential federal charges. The universe literally saved you from being framed for crimes you didn't even know were being committed. Your friends are probably calling you now with the news, expecting you to celebrate or comment or react. But you're different now. You're not the person who needs external validation of internal knowing. You're not the person who requires public vindication of private truth. You've become someone who knew this day would come without needing to see it arrive. Your response isn't a celebration, it's confirmation, not excitement, just acknowledgement, not revenge satisfaction, just cosmic correctness. The investigation is ongoing, which means more will be revealed, more victims will surface, more patterns will emerge, more evidence will stack. The person who once made you feel small is about to discover just how small a federal cell can feel. The person who isolated you is about to experience true isolation. The person who controlled your reality is about to have their reality controlled by people who don't care about their tears, their stories, or their manipulations. Federal prosecutors don't get trauma bonded. Judges don't get love bombed. The system they're entering doesn't recognize the currency they've used their whole life. There's a witness who's about to come forward that nobody expected, someone from their past who's been documenting everything for years, a family member who knew something was wrong but stayed quiet out of misplaced loyalty. This person has receipts going back a decade, photos, recordings, documents that paint a picture of pathology that started long before you entered the scene. You weren't the beginning of their criminal behavior. You were just a chapter in a book that started being written when they were barely an adult. The patterns you experienced were rehearsed on people you'll never meet, refined through repetition, perfected through practice. But let's talk about you for a moment. You who survived something you didn't even fully understand at the time. You who healed from wounds that went deeper than you realized. You who rebuilt from destruction, are more comprehensive than you knew. You weren't just healing from a toxic relationship, you were recovering from being an unwitting accomplice to someone's crime spree. You weren't just getting over betrayal, you were extracting yourself from a criminal enterprise. You weren't just moving on from a bad partner, you were escaping from someone who is now facing federal charges. The strength it took to leave is now being revealed in its full magnitude. You didn't just walk away from dysfunction, you walked away from danger. You didn't just end a relationship, you ended your proximity to criminal activity. You didn't just save yourself emotionally, you saved yourself legally. Every step away from them was a step away from potential prosecution. Every day of no contact was a day of establishing your innocence. Every moment of chosen distance was a moment of divine protection manifesting. Look at where you are now versus where you could have been. If you had stayed another year, your name would be on those fraudulent documents. If you had stayed another month, you would have been present during criminal activities. If you had stayed another day, you might have been in those handcuffs too. The universe's timing wasn't random, it was precise to the minute. Your exit was orchestrated with the kind of precision that only divine intervention can achieve. You left at exactly the right moment to avoid legal culpability while maximizing spiritual credibility. The universe orchestrated your exit before the investigation began. It removed you from the scene before the crime tape went up. It relocated you from the blast radius before detonation. Your heartbreak was actually evacuation. Your devastation was actually salvation. What felt like destruction was actually divine extraction. You thought you lost everything, but you were being removed from everything you were about to lose if you had stayed. The universe broke your heart to save your future. Now, as the investigation continues, as more evidence surfaces, as the full scope of their activities becomes clear, you're completely clear. Your hands are clean. Your name is clear. Your future is unobstructed. You're not tangled in their web anymore. You're not implicated in their schemes. You're not connected to their crimes. You're free in ways that are becoming more valuable each day. This investigation deepens. Your freedom isn't just emotional now. It's legal, financial, spiritual, and comprehensive. The evidence being collected includes something that will shock everyone except you, a detailed journal they kept about their manipulations, not a diary of feelings, but a strategic document outlining tactics, targets, and success rates. Your name is in there, along with notes about your vulnerabilities, your triggers, your breaking points. They studied you like a science experiment. They documented your reactions like a researcher. They planned your destruction with the precision of a military campaign. But what they didn't document was your resilience. What they didn't account for was your divine protection. What they didn't plan for was your phoenix-like ability to rise from ashes they created. The journal goes deeper than manipulation tactics. It contains something that would have destroyed you if you'd found it while you were together. Screenshots of conversations where they mocked your pain to their network. Voice recordings of you crying that they shared for entertainment. Videos of your vulnerable moments that they analyzed for weaknesses. They turned your suffering into a training manual for other predators. But here's the divine reversal. That same journal is now Exhibit A in their prosecution. Every cruel note they wrote is evidence. Every screenshot they took is proof of premeditation. Every recording they made is testimony against them. They documented their own crimes with the thoroughness of a court reporter. There's a particular entry dated 3 days before they discarded you. It details their exit strategy, how they plan to destroy your credibility, isolate you from support, and leave you questioning reality so thoroughly that you'd never be believed if you tried to expose them. They wrote about you like you were a business transaction being closed. But look at you now. Not only are you believed, you're validated by federal investigation. Not only are you credible, you're corroborated by 17 other witnesses. Not only did you maintain your reality, you transcended theirs entirely. Their exit strategy became your entrance into greatness. The person who tried to destroy you is now being destroyed by their own choices. But that's not your story anymore. Your story is about the reconstruction that happened after demolition, the beauty that emerged from ashes, the strength that developed through struggle, the wisdom that came through wounds. You're not defined by what they did to you. You're defined by what you did with what they did to you. And what you did was transform pain into power, betrayal into breakthrough, destruction into destiny. Their federal case will proceed without you. Their consequences will compound without your involvement. Their reality will unravel without your witness. You've graduated from needing to see their downfall to confirm your uprising. You've evolved past requiring their suffering to validate your success. You've transcended the need for revenge because you've discovered something better, complete, absolute, irreversible indifference to their existence. The FBI will continue their investigation. More charges may be filed. Other agencies might get involved. The case could expand. Contracts could be exposed. Additional victims could surface. But you'll be somewhere else entirely, building your empire, living your purpose, enjoying your peace, creating your legacy. The same day they're being processed, you're processing new levels of success. The same moment they're being questioned, you're answering to no one but your highest self. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. Part of you put on the headphones, press play and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your Destiny Engine for $1 today. Join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. This morning's federal visit was just the beginning for them, but it's the ending for you. The end of wondering if you were crazy, the end of questioning your intuition, the end of doubting your experience, the end of needing external validation for internal truth. Everything you felt was real, everything you suspected was accurate, everything you survived was significant, and now everything is exactly as it should be. The universe kept meticulous records of every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of gaslit confusion. It filed them under evidence in a cosmic case file. It submitted them to a higher court than any federal jurisdiction. It prosecuted in realms that transcend human legal systems. And today that cosmic verdict manifested in unmarked cars and federal warrants. Today, heaven's judgment appeared on earth in the form of handcuffs and rights being read. But the real victory isn't in their arrest. It's in your absence from the arrest. It's in your distance from the drama. It's in your elevation above the situation. You're not a character in their crime story. You're the author of your own success story. They're facing federal time while you're facing unlimited potential. They're dealing with investigators while you're investigating new possibilities. They're under scrutiny while you're under divine protection. The person who tried to convince everyone you were unstable is now demonstrably criminal. The person who painted you as crazy is now proven to be a criminal. The person who gaslit you into questioning reality is now facing a reality they can't manipulate. The reversal is so complete, so poetic, so divinely orchestrated that it could only come from cosmic justice. This isn't karma. This is karma's final exam, and it just got a perfect score. As you finish your morning coffee, as you continue with your day, as you build your dreams and live your purpose, remember this moment, not because you need to hold on to it, but because you need to remember that the universe always keeps score. Every injustice is noted, every wrong is recorded, every chosen one who suffers unjustly is marked for vindication. You didn't have to fight because the universe was preparing a victory you couldn't have imagined. The federal agents have left with their evidence. The investigation continues. The charges are being prepared. The case is building. But you're not waiting for updates. You're not tracking the proceedings. You're not invested in the outcome. Because you already received your verdict the day you chose yourself. You already won your case the moment you walked away. You already got your justice when you decided your piece was worth more than proving their pieces didn't fit. Your backstabbing ex just got a visit from the feds, and you're exactly where you should be, untouchable, unbothered, and completely free. The person who tried to destroy you is being destroyed while you're being divinely promoted. The person who tried to bury you is being exposed while you're blooming in ways they could never imagine. The investigation that started with federal agents will end with federal time, but your story ends with you winning without even playing. The universe just showed you that every instinct you had was correct. Every red flag you saw was real. Every moment of intuition you experienced was divine guidance trying to save you from what's being revealed now. You weren't paranoid. You were perceptive. You weren't crazy. You were correct. You weren't overreacting. You were underinformed about just how right you were. Here's the final revelation that seals their fate completely. The federal investigation uncovered communications between them and their network from 5 years before they met you. Your name was on a list. You were targeted before you even knew they existed. They researched you, studied your social media, learned your patterns, and engineered your meeting to seem like destiny. What felt like a romantic coincidence was actually a coordinated attack. What seemed like fate was actually fraud. But here's where divine justice gets poetic. The very fact that you were pre-selected proves you are special enough to threaten them. They don't hunt weak prey. They hunt powerful souls whose light threatens their darkness. You were marked for destruction because you were marked for greatness, and greatness won. Smile. Karma didn't just ring their doorbell, it kicked down their door with federal authority. And you were just having your morning coffee, living your best life, being the magnificent being they tried to destroy, but instead activated into your final form. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, while they're barely surviving. Federal prosecution. That's not revenge, that's divine justice. That's not karma, that's cosmic correction. That's not satisfaction, that's validation on a federal level. The person who backstabbed you just got front-stabbed by the universe, and you didn't have to hold the knife. Your hands are clean while theirs are in cuffs. Your conscience is clear while theirs is under investigation. Your future is bright while theirs includes federal facility visiting hours. You won without competing. You rose without pushing them down. You healed without hurting them back, and that chosen one is the ultimate victory.